Well, the Angels organization is back in the news for something terrible. We'll tell you all about it. We've got some ideas on how the Angels can finish strong, and we'll tell you who you should keep an eye on this weekend as the Angels play the Astros. You're locked on with Mike and Jon, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And Jon and I thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're free and we're available wherever you get your podcasts. You can give us a rate and a review. It helps others to find the pod on Apple Podcasts and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Happy Friday to you. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
Mike, another day, another Angels lawsuit, and this time it comes courtesy of two players who were given verbal agreements, a handshake deal. Yep. And apparently the Angels reneged on that deal. They can't renege.
You can't renege. Stop saying renege.
Renege. Am I thinking Seinfeld there? Is that what I'm thinking of?
That's Seinfeld, and we're totally brothers because my mind went there too.
Yeah, so this news came courtesy of Jeff Passan yesterday. He tweeted that two teenage baseball players are suing the Angels, alleging that the organization reneged on a verbal agreement to sign them. They're alleging that the Angels agreed to two deals, one for $1.8 million and the other for $425,000 when the players were 14 and 15 years old. They didn't honor the deals because of a change in the front office. Now, players outside of the U.S. and Canada are not officially allowed to sign until they're 16. And due to this, there's a lot of handshake deals and agreements with players. The Angels declined to comment. MLB declined to comment. And it sounds like this could be a case where this is a win for these players because in the Dominican Republic, this is something that they take very seriously, these verbal agreements. And it could be a way for the MLB teams to be held accountable. So that's getting us all up to speed here. I have some thoughts, but it seems like you might, I'm sure you have some thoughts as well.
Well, Jon, here are the questions. A couple questions. Would an international draft solve this? Does an organization have the right to change its mind if leadership changes? Mm-hmm. And why is it the Angels are always involved in messy headlines like that?
No.
So which one would you like to tackle first, Jon? Let's start. You know what? Let's start with an international draft. Do you think that would actually solve the handshake deals and some of this recruiting? I know that that's a conversation they had in the offseason, and they really didn't settle on anything. And so question number one, do you think that the international draft could solve a lot of this nonsense?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they actually had that conversation recently. I think it was as recent as July, and the players organization did not agree to what the MLB put forward, which was a bit of a surprise. Maybe they know better than I do, but I think that an international draft would definitely solve this sort of thing because this kind of goes into the other question. Why is it always the Angels? Well, in this case, it's not always the Angels. It's actually a rampant problem in MLB. A lot of teams are making these handshake deals and these verbal agreements. And I think the caveat here is that the Angels didn't follow through on the agreement. So that's why we're in the news. That's why the Angels are getting sued. But this is a problem through all of MLB. And because the teams want these players so badly, they make these promises, they make these deals. I mean, these guys, they worked out with the Angels in their organization and their facilities down in the DR. So I can understand where these players are coming from. But you know what this reminds me of? It's last year when the Angels had a minor leaguer speak out about living conditions and working conditions. And even though that's a rampant problem in Major League Baseball, it just happens to be the Angels players speaking out about it. So perhaps these guys knew that if they also drug the Angels into the news, that they would get some momentum going their way. So again, it's it's frustrating as an Angel fan, but I think it's comforting. I don't know if that's the right word, to know that it's not it's not just us
Yeah.
for a change, but the Angels. I mean, gosh, I think what I'm frustrated with is that all the national sports media is going to run with this headline: "The Angels are terrible. This is terrible. The Angels organization is horrible. Mike Trout and Ohtani need to get up." Like that's where this is going. I'm telling you
Sure.
right now that this
Easy
is
fodder.
it's easy fodder. It's cannon fodder, and they're just gonna run with this. So I think that's the frustrating part most of all. But I have to agree with these players. I mean, it does seem frustrating to go as far as you did with the Angels, and of course they can't sign them because they were not 16 yet. But Mike, I think your first question is interesting. Can the organization change their mind if the leadership changes? Which is what happened in this situation.
Yeah. See, I don't have a problem with this, and I have a problem with this. I don't have a
Mm.
problem with them being upset and suing
Mhm.
because I want to see people treated with dignity and with respect, especially those that are in
100%.
another country, right? Because we've
Yes.
heard so many stories over so many
Yes.
years about how they were manipulated, taken advantage of, and these are humans, and so we have to
Right.
remember that first. And then second,
Absolutely.
they want to make a life for themselves, and if they get a promise from an organization like the Angels or anybody in MLB, whether this is baseball or football or basketball, whatever,
Mhm.
I think that the organization is obligated to follow through. Now, if you have a leadership change, that's something that I do have a problem with, because
Mm.
what leadership promised before I got here is not something that I'm committed to, right?
Yeah.
And so I lead an organization, I lead a church, and there was prior leadership, and there were things that were committed in that prior leadership that I am not committed to, because I
Mhm.
didn't sign the documents or
You
the
didn't come up with it.
contracts.
Yeah.
And now if the board that actually oversees me did, then that's different. And
Yeah.
so I think in this instance, though, let's say it was Billy Epler's guys, right? And so
Mhm.
Billy Epler's guys wanted to sign these guys, had
It
a
was Billy
handshake
Epler's
agreement.
guys. Yeah.
Okay. And then now Perry Manassian comes in and he's
Right.
like, no, we're not about that. Then I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But if there was sort of a commitment like, hey, no matter what, and that
Mhm.
the organization already, John Carpino, these guys knew about it, then I have a problem with it. So that's
Mhm.
the only caveat to this conversation is when there's leadership change, there's not necessarily a commitment that has to be carried over to the next leader
Sure.
unless documents have been signed and unless the upper management has promised that. And if this handshake deal was like, Artie Moreno is going to make this happen, John Carpino is going to make this happen, then I have a problem with them reneging on this deal.
Mhm.
However, going back to my point, whenever there's new leadership change, you have to anticipate, and I know it's two young guys in the Dominican Republic,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
you have to anticipate that, does this mean that we're still going to get this opportunity? If I'm
Mhm.
the guy that was promised 425,000 and I look at what they promised the other guy, 1.8 million, I would sue for the difference, because that seems really unfair, right? But
Well,
that's where I don't have a problem with these guys suing, is that they're humans and that they are actually wanting to play ball. Where I do have a problem is any sort of leadership change, there's almost this expectation of, I need to double back and find out if we're still moving forward together.
I'm looking it up right now. I know the number is much more significant than the number that they were promised, and it was a pretty substantial number if I have the deal correctly, what they're suing for. But as I'm looking that up, I just think that you're right. I think with uh the fact that it is a different leadership change, they're not responsible for Billy
Sure.
Epler's decisions, and
Yeah.
Perry probably doesn't want a Billy Epler player. I mean, we've seen the
Yeah. His
difference in the
track
way that
record's
they
not
select
great, right?
players.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they certainly have a difference of opinion when it comes to uh, the kind of players that they're drafting. So here's what they're seeking: 17 million in damages
Wow.
from Fenyas, and then Pavon is asking for 4.25 million in damages. But this is the
Okay.
other wrinkle to this conversation. They both got signed.
Oh, they
Fenyas
did.
ended up with the New York Mets, and Pavon ended up with the Texas Rangers. So
Huh.
that's a
Okay.
whole other wrinkle to this conversation, where it's like, well, boys, you ended up with the teams, and funny enough, it's Billy Epler with the Mets.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he got his player at the end of the day. So it's strange that they're asking for so much in damages.
I feel like this is like maybe what happens, right? Like that you have a team that looks at you and maybe some things fall through and then another team kind of scoops you up. And so that feels, I don't know, that feels normal to me. That doesn't mean that you can just blow off any sort of agreement, but
Sure.
that does feel kind of normal to me. Like, oh, I was recruited here. I mean, it's like going to college, right? I talked to one of our local baseball guys. He was going to go to Washington State, and then he actually is not going there now, and he's being looked at by USC. And it was because there was a change of leadership and a change of mind. And so it doesn't feel too damaging. And so maybe perhaps there's more to it than we actually know. But again, I will stand on the point that when there's leadership change, you always should pick up the phone and make a phone call and go, hey, we still about this? Or because he's not there anymore, does this mean that I don't get to come and be a part of your organization again?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you have any thoughts, please reach out to us at Locked On Angels on Twitter, or you can comment below if you're watching on the YouTube side. We'd love to hear your opinions on this matter as well.
Coming up on Locked On Angels, we're going to talk about how the Halos can finish strong this season. We've got some ideas, but first, Locked On Angels is brought to you by Blue Chew. Johnny?
Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, and the process is very simple. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online, so you don't have to go to the doctor's office. No awkward conversations, no tippy-toeing around the matter at hand, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. So you can try Blue Chew for free when you use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. Just pay $5 for shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll receive your first month for free. Again, just $5 in shipping. So visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information.
There are 25 games remaining as of today, Friday, for the Halos. They find themselves at 60-77, which is just terrible to talk about, right? Like, it would be great if that was reversed. We were well on our way to that being reversed. And as well as they've been playing the last few series, it just feels like we haven't been able to chip into that record very much. And so hopefully this weekend we can actually do that against the Astros. But John, you and I have been talking about how can the Halos finish strong? Because obviously we're not going to the playoffs and that's not going to happen for us this year. And so we have a few ideas of some ways that our boys can finish this season strong, because how you end will dictate how you start next season. And so we'd love to see these guys start next season well by finishing strong in this season. So I got the first idea, Johnny. You ready for it?
Hit me.
I would love to see Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani each get 40 home runs apiece this season. I think it's well within reach, especially with the way that they have both been playing. Mike Trout has a home run in the last 4 games. And what's so remarkable is he's actually hitting a career best 1 home run every 11 at bats. He's only played in 97 games this year, but he has 32 home runs. And so I would love to see both of these guys get there. And I think within the next 25 games, hitting 8 home runs, that doesn't feel too high. It doesn't feel too unreasonable. And wouldn't it be awesome to have that? And you know what it's going to do? We're going to look back at the stats 20 years from now and go, how'd the team finish 17 games under 500?
It's always going to happen that way.
They had a great pitching staff, and they had 40 home runs apiece from Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. So I would love to see them reach the 40 home run plateau by the end of the season, John.
I think, speaking of Ohtani, it would be great to see him get to 13 wins on the season.
Oh, heck
He's going to need 2 more for that. I also think that he is within striking distance, you're welcome for the pun, of 200 strikeouts through the season. I think that he could easily get there as well.
I think he only needs 20 or so.
Yeah, something like that. So he is definitely got that in his sights, but at least 2 more wins would be fantastic. And if he got to 40 home runs, suddenly he's got an even stronger MVP case, which I think we could all agree is a much closer race than people would have you believe. So
Yes.
to me, I think Ohtani getting 2 more wins at least and getting to that 200 strikeout mark, which I think he can do, that would be a great way for him to finish strong. How about your boy Reed Detmers? You had some thoughts on Reed?
Yeah, I think it would be great for Reed to finish strong this year by getting his second complete game. We all know that his first complete game was his no-hitter, which feels
Mm-hmm.
like it was seasons ago, but it was actually this season, John, that he threw a no-hitter. And so I would love to see him get his second complete game. I think that he has the ability to do that. And I think it would be just an exclamation point that he has put it all together and he's figured out how to throw. His mechanics are good. And so I'm rooting for Reed Detmers to go 9 innings and maybe even throw a second shutout because that would help him to finish the season really, really strong.
That would be great to see. How about Jose Suarez, who is 6-6 on the season? Mike, I'd love for him to finish with a winning record for himself and get at maybe to 8 wins. That would be great to see. For the first time, having that winning record for him would be really awesome. He is somebody that really turned a corner this season. In fact,
He did.
his story really started last season when he was pitching in long relief, and it went, oh, he's looking pretty good. Then he had a few starts and looked really good. And then he kind of reverted back to his old ways. And it was more of the same to start the season with Jose Suarez. He was in the rotation, but wasn't quite the same guy he was in the middle of 2021. But he found himself again. And to me, with Suarez, it's all about the pace of his pitching on the mound. Because if he takes forever between pitches, and we just had the news come out yesterday that the pitch clock is on its way, and there's all kinds of rules about that. But we've seen the benefit of a guy like Sandoval or a guy like Suarez or Reed Detmers or even like Chase Silseth. These guys are pitching much more efficiently because they're playing against the clock. And when Suarez pitches at a great pace that doesn't take forever between pitches, I think is a much better pitcher on the mound. So I would love to see him get to 8 wins this season.
I think that it would be great to see Wallach and Theis playing catcher full time for the next 25 games. Max Stassi is just struggling, and
What happened
he's
to
not
that
just I don't know, man, but offensively he's struggling, and then defensively he hasn't really looked very strong. It seems like all of his pitch framing is gone. It seems like all of his throws down to second are gone, and so I would love to see Wallach. First of all, that guy's humongous. Have you seen him behind the plate?
He's a beast.
He is huge. And I think Theis's bat is a bat that I would love to see in the lineup. And if they don't do anything for the catcher next year, if Ohtani does not come up, I think Wallach and Theis would be a great combination back there. Now, I know that Stassi has a contract, and so he's going to be on this team unless we trade him or DFA him. I don't think we'll do that. Stassi's a good backup. I just don't think that he should be starting. I would love to see what Wallach and Theis could do and have them play more often than not in the next 25 games. I think that that would be a great way for the Angels to finish strong.
Mike, the same thing comes to mind about Jared Walsh and his struggles since late June, early July. He was playing hurt. And I got to think, something's wrong with Stassi. Is there not? Like, good grief. He can't.
You're probably right.
He can't hit the targets like he used to at second base, and he's not hitting the ball well. Like, there's got to be something going on there.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can find himself again in the offseason. Mike, last thing, I think it would be great to see. I want to see Taylor Ward finish strong, especially the way that he started this season before he ran into the wall, got hurt. I don't think he ever fully recovered from that. And we're starting to see him get back to those Taylor Ward ways. And right now he's got 17 home runs.
He does.
And I know that Trout and Ohtani need about 8 or so, give or take, to get to 40. How about getting Taylor Ward 8 more home runs to get to 25 home runs?
That'd be great.
And he would also get to about 65 RBIs. That would be great to see as well, because it really is a shame. You could have seen him be a high 20s, low 30s home run guy, I think, if he had played a full and healthy season. So I would love, just for his confidence, just to show everyone that he is still that guy. I think it would be great for him to finish strong, get some more home runs. I know that 8 is probably tough for a guy like Ward, not so much Ohtani and Trout,
Yeah.
but it would be great to see. I would love to see him finish strong, finish well, and get healthy in the offseason and come back and be the guy that we saw at the beginning of the season. Hopefully he takes us to the psych ward a few more times in 2022. I would be really thrilled if we could see that from Taylor Ward.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by Bet Online. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including baseball, MMA, boxing, and golf. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. Bet online, where the game starts.
Well, when you're not watching football this weekend, the Angels are going to be playing the Houston Astros for 3 games starting tonight and Saturday and Sunday. And Mike and I want to give you a couple of players to watch this weekend and talk about who we are watching in particular. We did play the Astros last weekend, and we got the win on Saturday night with that walk-off from Matt Duffy. But then Sunday was kind of a really bad outing.
It was hard
all the way around, and mostly it was because everybody had the day off. So it was let's move on from that and talk about this weekend and who we're watching. So Mike, why don't you start us out with who you're watching against the Astros this weekend?
Well, Sunday's starter was Tucker Davidson, and he's going to start again on Sunday. And so I'm watching him this weekend because you and I talked about him a little bit on Monday's episode. John, he is the type of guy that has the stuff, and he's the type of guy, according to Mark Gubiza, that is willing to learn how to be a better pitcher. And you see him going, oh, that worked. Oh, that didn't work. You can see him in real time figuring that stuff out. And so I'm going to be watching him this weekend. And what I'm going to be watching specifically is how many times he can repeat his mechanics. Because when his mechanics are on, Tucker's a really good pitcher. And I'm going to watch how many times he can actually command his pitches, where he places the fastball versus the slider or the curveball. And I'm going to look at the difference between how fast he throws the fastball versus what sort of off-speed pitch he actually can throw. And I think he's a guy that we might be able to count on in 2023. And I think he could be a part of the starting rotation. He's got a Braves background. The Braves know how to produce really great pitchers. And I think Tucker's going to be a really great pitcher, maybe number 4 or number 5 in the rotation. And I think that this is the type of guy that we want to root for, because he's a guy that we did trade Rysel for, and we want to get a great return on our investment. And I'm hopeful that when we look at Tucker down the line, we'll go, hey, that trade with Rysel Iglesias was actually a really great deal, because we got a really great pitcher that they kind of just let go because he wasn't performing like some of the other pitchers. And so this weekend, I'm going to be paying attention to Tucker Davidson. I'm going to invite you to do the same thing. Watch his command, watch his mechanics, watch how many walks he gives up or doesn't give up, because if he is low on the walks, that's a good indication that he's commanding the ball. And the other thing that's really hurt him is contact and hits. And so if he can actually minimize the hits and turn those into ground ball outs instead of base hits, I think that we're going to see a good weekend from Tucker. It is the Astros, and they did kind of dominate him last weekend. Hopefully we have our full lineup there and we can give him some support. But I'm watching Tucker Davidson this weekend. Who you watching?
I'm going to be watching Mike Trout, but before I talk about him, I have to think that the game plan has to change for Tucker Davidson against the Astros, because obviously it wasn't working out so well last Sunday. So I'm really curious to see how he's going to perform against a really tough team like the Astros. Mike, he's 26. And my original thought was, oh, he's a young guy. He's got time, but 26, that's older than Patrick Sandoval.
Yeah.
And with Jaime Barria and Jose Suarez, especially Jose Suarez, we saw him at 20 years old. He came up way too quickly because we had no arms. We needed somebody right away. And Sandoval, when he came up, he also struggled. And I think that, age is just a number. So I think the more time that Tucker Davidson spends with the organization, I think that he can continue to improve. And sometimes these guys just need somewhere else to be and someone else to learn from. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do against the Astros this weekend. I'm talking about Mike Trout because every time he goes to Minute Maid Park, he seems to struggle. And there's something about the batter's eye there that he is just not compatible with. So while that amazing 4-game home run streak, it could be in jeopardy. And we just talked about how great it would be to see him and Ohtani get to 40 home runs. I am concerned about how he'll perform in Minute Maid Park. I remember last season, early on, before he got hurt, he was leaning out because he thought he saw a slider and he got hit in the elbow, and everyone went, what? Mike Trout's sticking his elbow out there. But when he was mic'd up, he actually came around. I think he told Correa, he was like, I couldn't see it. I thought it was a slider. I didn't know what was coming. And so I really hope that whatever's going on with the batter's eye for Mike Trout at Minute Maid Park, hopefully he's used to hitting there now. They haven't been there in a while, actually. But I would really love to see Mike continue the hot streak that he's on. I said one little thing yesterday about not swinging at a pitch in the zone, and everyone got upset. I love Mike Trout, you guys. I love Mike Trout. I just wanted to see us make a comeback, and he didn't swing, and I was upset. Okay, give me a break. I'm only human. But I am looking forward to seeing if he can continue his hot streak this weekend, maybe make it 5 home run games in a row. That would be pretty cool to see. But yes, that batter's eye concerns me because he has not had very much success lately at Minute Maid Park. And maybe that has something to do with being hurt with the back issue prior to his trip to the IL. Hopefully he's fine. Hopefully he can see things well. And I really hope that he can bring the hammer down on the Astros this weekend.
John is only human. Age is only a number. And beauty is only skin deep. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now make your second listen to Locked On MLB podcast with MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan. Brings his humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and shares some of the biggest stories from around the league. You can follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure to give us a follow this weekend at Locked On Angels on Twitter and, of course, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram because, Michael, what do we have coming up on Monday?
It's Mailbag Monday, just another Mailbag Monday.
There you go.
You can send us all of your questions on Twitter and on Instagram. You can direct message us if you'd like. You can even give us a call and leave us a voicemail, 714-409-6396. We would love to hear the sultry sounds of your voice, and we'll play them on Monday on Locked On Angels.
Looking forward to that. We hope you guys have a great weekend. Thanks for jumping in and listening to us talk about our favorite team, no matter how bad they can be. And hopefully we have a great weekend against the Astros, and you have a great weekend as well. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
And we'll see you right back here on Monday for more Locked On Angels.